This hour, NPP presidential aspirants to sign a peace pact pledging to uphold the collective interests of the party ahead of the 31st presidential primary. Our Wind Division of the Forestry Commission arrests 13 suspects in a crackdown on illegal mining activities within the Tannock Forest Reserve. Also, this hour, pressure group Arise Ghana steps up protests in demand for the extradition of embattled former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta. It's News Central, live on TV3. I'm Kemini Amano. The news starts right now. We are your election command center. Now, NPP's 5 presidential aspirants will today sign a peace pact with a pledge to uphold the party's collective interests. This pact also enjoins them to support whoever emerges winner of the January 31st primary. The candidates, former Sin Central MP Ken Ohene-Agyapong, former Minister of Food and Agriculture and MP for Abetifi, Dr. Brian Acheampong. Also in this race, our ex-Vice President and 2024 presidential candidate, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, Bosomtwe MP, Dr. Yawose Duchum, and former General Secretary of the party, Kwabena Ejei Agyapong. Our George Queenan is following this story closely. He joins us with a bit more on this story. George, good afternoon to you. Who are some of the dignitaries you have seen so far?
Thanks so much for having me. So we're coming to you live from Alisa Hotel, and this is where the peace pact meeting is taking place. It's actually started. The arrival of the former president, Nana Akufo-Addo, made the meeting start now. And the former vice president is also here, who's also one of the aspirants, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, and all the 5 aspirants, I should say, here we have big wish the party, former MPs, former ministers are all here. So it should tell you that it's a great meeting, and hopefully this very pact will ensure that this very intended primaries is devoid of any mayhem.
I see. But let's talk about the day itself. How is it shaping up? What's the importance of the pact as far as those you've spoken to are concerned?
So I managed to speak to some of the grassroots people here, and one thing they've been saying is that the party needs some sort of unity and cohesion, and it's something that they've been lacking for the past years now. And so if they want to really win the upcoming elections, which is in 2028, what they need is cohesion. And at the end of the day, policies of insult should be a thing of the past, because if you insult an aspirant and that aspirant wins, are you going to support the person eventually? So all these policies of insult should be avoided, so that at the end of the day, they can only rally behind the person who emerges as a victor. But I didn't tell you this. So former President Tudor Johnson was expected to be here, but we are told that he's not feeling too well, so he couldn't make it. And that was announced before the MC spoke. So he is missing in action. But those that are really matter in this very party are here, Kemini.
George, we'll end it here for now. And perhaps before we go, when will the pact signing actually take place? What are you picking up?
It just started. The arrival of the former president, triggered the commencement of this very meeting. But there are some people that are supposed to make addresses. Hopefully, the aspirants will make some few addresses, and some notable persons as well. So, what are these addresses? That's exactly when the MOU will be signed. All of these aspirants will be signing this MOU so that they would ensure that that very peace they are requiring in this Saturday election will come to fruition.
Very well, we'll end it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. George Queenan is our correspondent covering the pact signing event of the NPP. Remember that all 5 presidential aspirants are expected to sign this. It is the beginning of a mop-up exercise of sort post the January 31st primary. It will ensure and joining all of them to support the eventual winner of the January 31st primary. It would also ensure that the base of the party, supporters of these candidates, do not fall off the bandwagon of what is the most important thing, the NPP. Quick chat with CDD fellow Dr. John Kwapong, who's joining us via telephone. Doc, I appreciate your time this afternoon. Obviously, a very significant step for the party, but what impact do you think it would have realistically?
Good afternoon. I hope it has a positive impact because anybody who has been following this primary, to put it politely, would see the extent to which, while spirited and very competitive, sometimes has degenerated into the use of sometimes very unfortunate rhetoric and all of that. And so I just hope that the signal from the flag bearer aspirants as they sign this peace pact would signal to all of their committed and enthusiastic supporters that whilst in the spirit of competition, that is welcome, that on the day of the election, that everyone would commit to comporting themselves and ensuring that nothing mars the integrity of the electoral process on January 31st.
I see. Doc, someone would refer you to the recent exchanges between the former MP for Asin Central, Kennedy Agyapong, and the former Vice President as a sign that really this might just be on paper, but the candidate themselves will not follow as it says.
I want to believe that the candidates, especially the 2 leading contenders, in my opinion, would truly be committed to this beyond just the signing of it. Because I would also want to believe that whoever does not uphold this peace pact on the day of the election, right, even if they end up becoming the winner, would have some questions to answer come general election time in terms of their temperament, their attitude towards electoral integrity and all of those things. I just hope that some of the exchanges is just a reflection, even though I don't approve of the intense competitive nature of the primary process and not a signal that they would not remain committed to the peace pact beyond the signing of it this morning.
Do you expect such heated, exchanges to be more intense as we draw close to January 31st?
Oh, definitely. And if you've been following, especially the supporters of those 2 main camps in particular on social media and the jabs they've been exchanging, I can't imagine it toning down between now and the 31st of January. I think it's going to intensify. But hopefully, once January 31st is settled, they will be able to put all of that behind them and rally behind whoever emerges winner of the contest.
Which means also that the party has a lot of work to do within this brief window before January 31st. What are some of the things beyond this peace pact you'd expect them to kick into play?
For me, all the processes that they put in place, which they have already been putting in place in the lead up to January 31st, ensuring that whether it's the delegates album, whether it's the voting process, whether it's getting materials to places on time, working in close collaboration with the EC, the nature of the process would also reflect how the aspirants would treat the outcome. And the last thing that the party wants it's to give aspirants a reason to question the fairness, the transparency, and the sort of the openness of the process. So for me, the burden is really on the party and the party's election committee working closely with the EC to ensure that you have a foolproof process where at the end of the day, all of the candidates, whoever wins, whoever loses, would be able to vouch for the integrity of the process. Because again, you don't want anybody coming out of this raising questions and feeling as though they were not treated fairly, because then it even makes it more challenging to build party unity post the primary.
Doc, we'll end it here. Thank you so much for your time. Dr. John Osai-Kwapor is a CDD fellow. We've just been looking at the NPP's most significant event today, signing the Peace Pact amongst the 5 presidential aspirants. We'll now turn attention to something else. It's day 3 of the Arise Ghana protest at the U.S. Embassy here in Accra. The protesters are demanding immediate deportation of Ghana's former Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta, to face justice here in Ghana. Christian Yale is our man on the ground. Let's connect quickly with him and bring you the very latest on day 3 of this protest. Christian, what can you report?
Kamini, so for about 30 minutes now, the Arise Ghana protesters have been marching around the U.S. Embassy, making that strong demand for the expeditious extradition of Ken Ofori-Atta back into the country. I know that on the very first day, it was a very calm one. Yesterday, the momentum began to build bigger and bigger, and today they have resorted to marching across the U.S. Embassy to register their demand, to make their demand known to the U.S. authorities here. And so that is the situation right here. But I want to quickly engage them to ask them to see, do you think that your protest is making the necessary impact?
It's making an impact. International media are covering it. America know today Ken Ofori-Atta has to come back to Ghana. We need him in Ghana. We need him today and we need him tomorrow. He must come back to Ghana. Ghanaians are demanding that Ken Ofori-Atta must come back to Ghana. And nothing else. That's the most important thing. Ghanaians are demanding, we need Ken Ofori-Atta. And then you can head the backgrounder, bring back Ken today and bring back Ken tomorrow.
And so that is a demand that they continue to make. Let me engage you just briefly. Do you think that you're making or sending across the right signals to the U.S. authorities in this embassy?
Absolutely. We are sending the right signal because we are standing right in front of the U.S. embassy. And we know that whatever we are doing here, they are watching us 24 hours a day. Yes, so our signal is very high. We are catching all the attention. And I know the man on the seat over there in the U.S. is shaking him.
All right, but Kamini, so what I know is that tomorrow, God willing, they are going to submit a petition to the authorities here. Salom Jamado is one of the lead conveners for this picket. Let me talk to you briefly. I understand that you are submitting a petition tomorrow. What are the details about that?
Of course, yes, we made it clear through you to your viewers and listeners that our petitions are in twofold. We have the written petition and the verbal petition, or the oral one. We started that one on Tuesday. We are wrapping up the verbal petition today. Tomorrow we will formally submit our written petition to the U.S. authorities here in Ghana at the U.S. Embassy. We will be doing that tomorrow, which may be a wrap-up for the strategy 1. The strategy 2 will be rolled out very soon when the time is due and appropriate for the public, the general public to know.
All right, thank you so much, Salom. But Kamini, let me quickly engage one of the conveners, Bernard Mona, who has been with them all through this protest over the past 3 days. What we know is that today they are wrapping up the oral or the verbal petition. Tomorrow there will be a written petition that will be submitted. Bernard, do you, per your own assessment, have you sent that message across that U.S. authorities should bring Ken Ofori-Atta back as a matter of urgency?
There cannot be doubt that the message has been forcefully, strongly, and positively sent. The government of the United States from day one has been monitoring what is happening at their embassy in Accra. And all they hear is that whilst work at the embassy is going on, tongues of Ghanaians are here demanding that a man who was in the helm of affairs in this nation, who looted the resources of the nation, is needed to face justice. And that the United States should do everything possible to let the man come and account for his stewardship. We have made that message forcefully, and tomorrow we shall be compiling our petition and give a formal presentation to the American embassy to be forwarded to the United States of America.
All right, so there you have it, Kemini. That is the message right across, breaking right now on TV3, that tomorrow the Arise Ghana protesters are going to submit a formal petition to the U.S. Embassy. Mariam Gifty Yamba is one of the co-conveners. What is the message from tomorrow? What do you expect to be done?
Tomorrow we'll be submitting our petition to the U.S. Representatives in Ghana here, and then we'll read it out to them and present it to them, because we've been here for some days, so we feel we should present it to them so they get to know officially why we have been gathered here all these days.
But I see that there is someone wearing an NPP t-shirt. Are you an NPP member?
Yes.
Why are you protesting? Ken Ofori-Atta is from the NPP or served under the NPP?
Are you not a Ghanaian?
I am.
Yes, I'm a Ghanaian. Because of Ken, this my man lose.
Of human beings here.
Because of Ken, Bawumia lose this election. So Ken must come to account. What is this? What is this? Please read it for me. What is it? It's not witch hunting. It should come and account. That's all. That's all. Ken must come, please.
So that is it. Now, even members of though I cannot confirm because I do not have his NPP card here.
Yeah. Tomorrow. My name is Chama Obili. Obili, you can ask Jerry Ahmed. Ask him that, do you know Chama Obili from Wajakbawe?
All right.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So that is it. For today, one thing that has been significant has been the loud music by the band all throughout the day. So much of sweat. Kemini, I'll hand back to you in studios, but the protest continues. And what we know is that tomorrow they are going to submit that written petition to the U.S. Embassy here, and they hope that the necessary action will be taken. Back to you in studios, Kemini Amano.
Well, Christian Yali, thank you so much for that report. He joined us from the American Embassy here in Accra. Now, this afternoon, we are learning that 6 drivers have been arrested at the Odoko Vehicle Terminal for charging unapproved fares. These drivers who ply the Sewutu-Accra stretch were apprehended by the Special Task Force of the GPRTU as part of their enforcement to ensure transportation sanity. The GPRTU earlier this week deployed this task force on the streets to monitor and arrest drivers engaged in unlawful practices such as charging unapproved fares during peak hours as Accra continues to grapple with traffic congestion and a shortage of vehicles amid complaints of vehicle shortages. We'll now connect with Grace Hamwa Ajimaya at the Odoko Lorry Station, where the task force is operating. Grace, what can you report from there?
In the last
few weeks, Media General has been championing a campaign to find solutions to the transportation challenges that some cities in the country has been experiencing. Now, out of that is the establishment or the creation of the GPRTU task force to ensure that the many complaints that passengers give, including the charging of unapproved fees, as well as the short trips that these drivers do during peak hours, is prevented. Today, the task force is here at the Odoko Lorry Terminal, and they have arrested 6 drivers who are charging unapproved fees. These drivers move from Sotuom, they make a stop at Santa Maria, also make a stop at Kwashiman, make a stop at Odoko, make a stop at Kaneshi before they get to Accra. Ordinarily, without any short stops, they charge 6 cedis from Sotuom to Accra. But because of these stops, they are taking in all 9 cedis. So we have some of the drivers here who also make a case that, well, some other conditions have led to them doing these short stops or charging these unapproved fees. Let me engage some of them and we can hear from them. GPRTU task force for you and I pay and I almost say much more say more short. Ye two more for some munjai. Aden and I'm gusu yama and GPRTU for no a task force na chim.
Oh, okay. And your bonnet as some passer will be summoned. And so pay I say Saturday and Eddie, of course, but one thing to say. Enye personal car, will be car. You be car says no. First you to lol febwan as to 6 mama driver. My zano. You to lol febwan car na to ni 6. Obekwa kwa 6 awas matum. Makwa bo so kan be ko to no ma no spare part ya tum. Nti matum. Ya te lol first so. Ya te lol first so. Ka na anti 6 ma driver no. And at the same and lunch no. Brefu no said they turn sana they turn say crutch to those days crutch to ma why iron swa so 80 cedis but say crutch to ma ko 200 cedis enye ka una enim saka no na akasha ho but also wo family wo eno na wo so adwuma odidim eno na odidim saa no akwa no be ko school be to school fees dan ka those days na ha dan single room in the porch I saw 1.5. You see, a nursing room in the porch. 300 cedis.
Exactly. So, more than how we are nina. I bet 2 passenger this one na.
How passenger na any omo ye adwuma. The same passenger na also for car no. Also come market. Eton ade. So passenger na oton ade. Yeah, you are your point. Kwa kote aduane adi. Bi say say mapon be 100 cedis. Na say nimbre me kwa me kote aduane say be kwa ma say 50 cedis ah. Chop point say na be ba ma me.
And say also no car on animum and di nkomo say na ekoso. Emfa be 2 passenger ne so.
Passenger na fan to so you go say fan to. Ka wona so kwa aboso kan no. Ade yente so man because ya wo man mu na say dollars akoso or dollars na ekoso no. Aba from by stra no yente te no ma so man no. Enti ka wona so on 20 can say on 20 lord friend ma because dollars na from na for so ya me ado ya te so aman. Ba yente say no so. Say make sure say ya te so because you told all fame pay.
And say na GPRTU for a task force ache money afofure then amobe.
See an at the side best one say kokobo e ma yen na because obi ahwe yes say obi abetu no for say ACB but yen am why ho especially say the dey bad drivers free omo ton ade yen ma pepe ye enye pepe mbra no bia ho nto no because obi awo family obi awo nkwala metua school fees e ma akwala.
Mamini way so enkasa driver back so enye he has also been arrested for the same offense. Also GPRTU task force and pay omacho. Yes, mamu nya short first. Mu koso to mu to Accra 6 cedis. And then amu chichum 9 cedis.
Oh, enye ya photo. The ka una for no so ya den. E ka un bi. Ena ntini abasa no say sibo na ya den. But I say na police for no so chi ya dodo. Nti e be pa aban na chew ne apa GPRTU for mpeni so achew. Ene ye mpeni fo achew say we dey esro mo yafun nti omo fa nche ebisa nsibie.
So, Kamini, what they tell me is that the sales the car owners give them or what they pay at the end of the day is too much. And that is what is culminating into them doing this short fares. Let me do the final driver and then we can speak to the leader of the GPRTU task force here. Also, to say GPRTU for Achiwi, and then it's now free.
Oh, me and the American say, Pamacho say, there's no, Uncle Sabium. But I said, I say, Nama Mutoma Okrum, Omuntisumai, the Coco Tespa Pata, Yantisu, Yantifin Sumai, into Pamacho say, Omuntisumai.
But there are other drivers who are surviving without doing the short trips.
Oh, and so Muslim know. But me to me, no, Obia Huchirum. I want you to be on until the Mihias and Pacho. So let me
engage Commander Gazy. He is the leader of the GPRTU task force here. Commander, you are live on TV3. Talk to us about the operation today so far.
Good afternoon to my cherished listeners. The operation today, yesterday was a different thing. This morning also we started with a different thing. This morning we started from Sotum, Kwashima, and then Center. That is where they normally, the first stop starts from Sotum, then they end at Kwashima. But we deploy the group into 3 departments. The first group starts from the first point, and then the second group will be at the middle, and then the third group at Odoko. So when you load from the first place and you end at Kwashima, and you start Odoko, Kaneshi, which means you are at fault. So the information will be liaised from there to the last group here, and then the last group will pick you out. So this is the strategy we use this morning. And
the drivers who have been arrested, what happens to them from here?
From here now, we're sending them to the police. Ours is to arrest and then hand over to the police, and then the police will carry on. So we are now sending them from here to the police.
What will be your caution to the drivers who are watching us on TV3 now?
They must be alert because we are on their rampage. We are coming. We are coming. We are all over. This evening, we are in a corner, but we will not alert them where we are coming. We'll go out this evening.
So it means the operation is not only in the days, morning and evening?
Morning and evening. We know that the strategy that they are using, they do morning and then at the close of the day, then they do that one also. So we also strategy to go for them in that time.
You are arresting them for only charging unapproved fees, or what are you arresting them for?
Unapproved and then the short.
Okay.
Yes. And at this time, I'm going to add another one again. All drivers that you see here, they are all in proper dressing. I am going to add that.
All right.
So they must be aware.
All right. Commander Gazy, thank you so much. So there is an executive of the GPRTU here at Odoko. Talk to us. This is happening in your station. How do you respond to it?
Most me paka unespo bia chose otoka ombo modena union bia GPR to na cooperative ene union bia e woni persuasion ombo modena onfaka ni enko office no mu pe driver enfa man oyesa yenya ye wumbetoye simple because ushe omo appearance cry enye fine omo dress omo dread serenade e your office e bi mu she nika Charlie what most omo nyomo she slippers enye na says no omo kan say says no omo kan eye kokonsa e bia medical na mami brass pay my chance o me madam ni me says 200 simple person o person meduma senti okwa na okoma 400 na weduma ball back car ni back office or na your money says on to me jika no and free driver no just like that keke bibi ni o be office or no dia be transi me driver we I say yeah we friend on na kasa but ambassador say ana on make say ebeba.
Okay, so the consensus here is that the drivers are citing that their car owners are charging them a lot. GPRTU says that they are also on the lookout. If you fall at the wrong side of the law, they will definitely come back to you. So from the Odoko Lorry Terminal, Grace Hamwa Ajiman, back to you in the studio.
It's still News Central here on TV3. Vice President Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman has encouraged the use of digital technology to solve problems and protect intellectual property. She was addressing staff of the Ministry of Communication when she called on them as part of her routine visits to ministries.
Understand your roles, and I urge you to continue to do even more. because we are all working to ensure the success of our country. That's the prime responsibility. That the success of the country, as it goes through the success of the president, as it goes through the success of the ministers, the agencies, all of us, regardless where we are, we all want Ghana to be successful. So I hear you, Mr. Minister, on all the things you are doing, and I want to congratulate you and your team. Congratulate those who are here, and I'm always very, very interested in those who are not here. I believe that if we were to see everyone, we would need a larger room. But we are working on behalf of others, and that is why we need to take our responsibilities as seriously as we can. So I want to congratulate all of you, to encourage you to do even more, and to assure you that we are there to support you, to ensure that Ghana succeeds. Part of the visit is also to break down and to establish probable familiarities. You know, and again, as I've said elsewhere, if we meet after today, and I don't quite remember whether it was in education or health, just forgive me. And just know that, yes, we are all in this together to ensure that we are advancing our country, that we are leaving our country in a better shape than we found it. So I hear you on the review of legislation. That's very important. Wherever you go, you need to find out what are things and how can we advance things. So this is very important, and I want to assure you of support when the time comes. You know, dealing with all types of miscommunication is very, very important. You know, now we have different ways in which we can all become anonymous in how we are communicating, so people don't know who we are. We are virtual people. We are not. We are ordinary people, and we need to, you know, hold ourselves in account to our own words and our own actions. That's very important, so that, you know, just to push out hate speech, racist comments, you know, I mean, I don't know where we think, you know, where that should lead us. Definitely cannot be leading us to the ultimate aim. And what is that? Just to ensure that there's peace in the country.
We'll be right back with more news. Don't go away. Today on By the Numbers, we move beyond the headlines and into the lived reality behind poverty in Ghana. For many people, poverty is not abstract. It shows up in overcrowded rooms, missed meals, children falling behind in school, and illness without health insurance. The latest multidimensional poverty index from the Ghana Statistical Service shows that poverty in Ghana is easing, but unevenly so. By the third quarter of 2025, the national MPR declined to 21.9%, with more than 360,000 people exiting poverty in just one quarter. Yet rural communities, high poverty regions, and health-related deprivations continue to shape everyday life for millions. Let's hear now from the government statistician, Dr. Alhassan Idrisu.
The incidence of multi-dimensional poverty means what proportion of the population is poor in multiple ways. In 2025, quarter one, the incidence was 23.9%. What does this mean? This means that 23.9% of the population were multidimensionally poor in quarter one of 2025. In 2025, quarter two, the incidence reduced to 23.1%. And in 2025, quarter three, it further declined to 21.9%. So this means that the incidence of multi-dimensional poverty declined from 23.9% in quarter one of 2025 to 21.9% in quarter three of 2025.
Let's do a quick check-in with the numbers, because we've heard that quite a few more people have exited poverty. In fact, by the end of 2025, we're hearing over 900,000 people. What does this mean, really? So we already know the rates, but what's been the trend? We see from 2022, some 28.3, all the way to 21.9% now, seeing some 360,000 people exiting poverty, which means they are no longer below the poverty line between the period quarter two to quarter three. That is by the end of September going into October. So what caused this change, right? We're seeing improvement in health. We're seeing improvement in living conditions. We're seeing improvement in education and also in employment. I'm sure you were thinking in only in money terms, right? But these are the things that are driving, indicating whether or not you're doing well or you're doing bad, right? And so how healthy you are or how you're able to afford health care, your living conditions at this moment, and the likes, not just the income you make, will determine whether you fall below or above the poverty line. And what we're hearing is that many more people are above that line now. But how does this spread across the country? The number of people multidimensionally poor in this country, we see the Ashanti region beats the northern region to that. Some 1.25 million people in the Ashanti region are multidimensionally poor. The northern region follows with 1.1 million, followed by the central region, 720,000 people. It goes on and on. But check where Greater Accra region is, with 480,000 people somewhere in the center. The region with the least dimensionally poor people is the western region, with 370,000 people. It's still quite a high number, right? But when you compare with the Ashanti region, the northern region, the central region, that is definitely a fraction. Most importantly, where you live determines your chances of whether or not you are poor, or you become poor, or you live above the poverty line. And we know what happens in the rural area. So let's compare the rural-urban rates now. Look at quarter two of 2025. Red for rural, green for urban. And the difference is clear. 33.1% of rural dwellers, multidimensionally poor, 15.3% of urban dwellers, multidimensionally poor. By the Q3 of 2025, we see an improvement, albeit marginal, right? From 33.1% of rural dwellers, we're seeing 31.9% of rural dwellers, going down about 1.1%, I believe, or 1.2%. As far as the poverty line is concerned, we see a similar trend with the urban dwellers as well, 15.3%. The quarter before, 14.2% in the third quarter of 2025. So now you tell me, where do you belong in that? But while you think about that, we are joined now by Alfred Appiah, a data scientist. We'll have a quick chat on the back of this. Alfred, what is the drive in the drop in the MPI from 23.9% in Q1 to 21.9%? What does this tell us?
It tells us we're making progress in dealing with multidimensional poverty, albeit slower and still significant regional disparities like you were talking about. But I think in terms of drivers, so you're looking at things like nutrition, right? Nutrition between Q2 and Q3 has declined in terms of the deprivation. We're also looking at insurance coverage also getting better, right? There's still a lot of work to be done when you look at the trends, but something that you might take for granted, for example, if you are living in Accra, would be toilet access. For example, access to a toilet. That's a significant contributor to multidimensional poverty. And so we've seen some marginal decline in that as well between Q2 and Q3. But the other interesting thing is, even though we are seeing some of those decline in those indicators, the other indicators are actually rising. So, for example, overcrowding, right, has increased from a deprivation of about 11.4% to about 22%. In Q3 2025. So I think overall it's a good news story to see some of these things going down. And it's important that we even having this conversation about poverty beyond income levels, right? And talking about all these different dimensions of poverty.
Let's cram the numbers a little bit longer. Why is the national progress not evenly reflected across the country?
I think you can point to a few things. So when you look at urban, more predominantly urban regions like Greater Accra, right? The main contribution to the MPI is in employment, which is reflecting urban labor market conditions, right? So we know that in the urban centers, there's unemployment issues, right? In the rural areas, there's still employment issues, but in the rural areas, you're also dealing with a lot of agriculture. And in agriculture, it's not really about when we are talking about employment, it's not really about the quality of employment in this case, it's whether you are employed or not, right? And so because of the agriculture influence in rural areas, you would find more employed people than when you are looking at the urban centers where unemployment even becomes a bigger issue. But then when you're looking at living conditions, so you're looking at access to toilets, you're looking at the type of cooking fuel that people are using, access to health insurance, then the story is almost opposite. So in the rural areas, those living conditions tend to be worse compared to when you're looking at Greater Accra. So it's almost like, when we are talking about employment, we have much better, relatively better story in the rural areas compared to the urban centers. But when we are talking about living conditions, it's the opposite. So that's why I think that's what is explaining some of those disparities, some of those regional disparities. But employment is only 1/4 of the weights of the items, right? So you still have health, you still have education, and you still have living conditions.
Alfred, let's look at health, right? Which contributes about 40% to the entire MPI. What does it say then about the state or access, affordability of health in this country?
Yeah, I think it means we need to improve the access, right? I think that, and I think this is important because, the government recently uncapped the NHIL, right? And that should help with some of that. But it also speaks to something about how we measure some of these outcomes, right? Because often we hear numbers thrown around about how many people are enrolled in NHIS and all of that. But we hardly hear about the population coverage, which is very important, right? So because we know our population is not static. And so at any point, our population is increasing. So if we just focus on like putting out that we have 17 million people or 15 million people enrolled in NHIS, well, what does that mean for the population in general? And so you see that in the rural areas too, there's issues with access to or enrollment in the NHIS, right? And that's what is also contributing to some of that. So health being so important, I think it definitely puts the spotlight on, essentially expanding access to the NHIS but other than, yes, because in health, in this case, we are specifically measuring access to NHIS and then also nutrition.
Well, on the flip side, employment contributes the least to MPI. Why is that the case?
So that's why I'm saying that. So you have to look at the weight distribution, right? So there's 4 dimensions in the MPI. Health, and they're all equally weighted in terms of the broad dimensions. Employment is only a quarter of it. So definitely, when you're looking at all the others, right, employment weights relative to the others will be lower, right? But I think the employment is also telling a very interesting story, right? It's essentially reinforcing the importance of being employed. And it's also reinforcing the importance of the type of employment that people are in. Because there's a significant correlation between employment status and your living condition, right? And your health status and your health education access. So what we are seeing is that households where the head is unemployed, they tend to be more multidimensionally poor compared to the other types of households, right? And then even within those that are employed, when you look at those that are formally employed, so those that are in the public sector or they're in the formal private sector, they tend to have less multidimensional poverty compared to those that are in private informal employment. So that is telling us a story about the structure of the Ghanaian labor market. When you look at the structure of the Ghanaian labor market, it is dominated by people that are in what is called vulnerable employment, essentially those that are doing their own thing, right? So you look at our labor force and it's about over 60% of people who are own account workers. They are just, think of your neighborhood watch seller or somebody that have people they are considered employed, but they basically are not making enough money to be able to make a living, right? So for policymakers, right, unemployment is important. It's an important thing to focus on, but it's also about the type of jobs that are being created. Right? So if you look, that's why. So when we talk about we've created this much jobs, we've created this many jobs. It's not a one-to-one thing, right? So creating a job doesn't mean you've created a sustainable employment, right? And so that's why it's also important that we are not just looking at how much jobs are being added in the economy, but the quality of that jobs. Because as this data tells us, that is heavily correlated with the type of, the level of multidimensional poverty that we see in households.
And just before we go, to what extent could this MPI, generally calculated, be misleading? And to what extent is it accurate?
Well, I think, it's mostly fundamentally because of the weighting, it might be reflecting a lot of living conditions and accesses, right? And so I think there's the income measure of poverty is also important. So it's almost like the income measure has to go hand in hand with this other dimensional measure of poverty, right? So we know the number of people percentage of people that are living below a certain income level, and then also the type of deprivation that they are facing in other areas. Because admittedly, the income-based measure is just focusing on income deprivation, but we're also looking at all the other accesses, all the other things that people are not able to access just because of where they are located, right? So I think we have to use both indicators hand in hand.
Alfred, pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for having me.
That'll be all for By the Numbers. Time to bring you stories from across the regions. The Northern Region Liaison Office of the National Security has arrested 45 foreign nationals believed to have entered the country from Côte d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, and Liberia. The suspects include 12 Ivorian nationals, 2 Liberian nationals, and 31 Burkina Faso nationals. Sustained intelligence by National Security reveals that these foreign nationals were engaged in QNet recruitment and trafficking activities within vulnerable peri-urban communities in Tamale. All the individuals are reported to have been lured into Ghana under false promises of employment, international travel opportunities, and business prospects linked to QNet schemes. The suspects have since been handed over to the Ghana Immigration Services for profiling. Christopher Mwako is our Northern Region correspondent following this story closely. Chris, what else can you tell us? Well, we'll try again. Chris, if you can hear me, what else can you report on this story? Well, it appears we do not have Chris at the moment, but some foreign nationals have been arrested in the Tamale area, believed to be trafficked or connected to QNet. Chris will give us the clarity that comes with that. Chris, I hope you can hear us. What else can you tell us? You'd have to unmute yourself, Chris. Nope, we cannot hear you. We'll fix that connection. But let's take a listen to the National Security Liaison Officer, RSM retired Adams Mohammed.
As we dug deeper, we realized most of them were lured into Ghana with the promise of taking them to Europe for other greener pastures. And some too were brought in to do these QNet activities and other related activities. We are not ruling out the issue of terrorism and that of economic migration. We've been instructed to hand them over to the Ghana Immigration Service for further engagement. I want to stand here on behalf of the National Security Coordinator, assuring the general public that they should go about and carry out their daily activities in peace and safe. We can assure them of their safety. They should not feel that they are insecure. National security is on top of its job and is taking the fight to fish out each and every criminal within our society. I think the peace of our region and the peace of the country is a great supreme interest to us.
We'll try Chris one more time now. Chris, if you can hear me, are these rescued victims linked to trafficking or they are suspects themselves?
Yeah, so, Kevin, according to preliminary investigation from the National Security and the Ghana Immigration Service, they are saying that these foreign nationals who are believed to be from Burkina Faso, Cote d'Ivoire, and Liberia have been in the country over a period now. And their activities that they are undertaking in the country sort of indicates that they are in the country illegally because they are here to transact this QNet business as well as other suspicions of being linked to terrorism. As we speak, the Ghana Immigration Service is continuing with its profiling. Yesterday, 7 more of the foreign nationals were arrested. So now the number is 52. And so they are currently with the Immigration Service going through the profiling. And according to the Immigration Service, once they are done, they will make sure that they move them back into their countries.
Very well, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for your time. Away from that, the murder of a 35-year-old man at Logba at Akpeti in the Apajato South District of the Volta region has sent shockwaves amidst agitations among residents of the community. The deceased King Ayomiche was brutally murdered in his room following an altercation with another young man. This incident, according to the chiefs of the community, is one too many that must be checked. Correspondent Faisal Abdul-Idris joins us with a bit more on this story. Faisal, what else can you tell us about this very disturbing story?
Yes, Camille. So this latest incident, according to the chiefs, is one of too many in the sense that this is the fourth one that has happened in the community. And this very one followed an altercation between the deceased person, King Anyomiche, and one other person who is currently in police custody. The victim died shortly after he was discovered in a pool of blood in his room. The chiefs believe the trend of events would degenerate into an inter-community conflict if state actors don't intervene, because out of all the four, because the four incidents we are talking about, they are saying that have been committed by individuals from neighboring communities, and as much as they do not want to stoke any inter-community conflict, they want the states to act. Let's listen to Togbe Kokudria, the sis, the Asafuhini of Logba Alakweti, who addressed the press yesterday.
This is about the fourth of such incidents, and it is imperative that we sound the alarm. The previous incidents include the tragic murder of Akuma Kofi, a teacher trainee then in Ameku, that is the Amejope Teacher Training College. Kokache Tete Pogo, also known as Koku Moti, and now the most recent King Anyomiche.
Faisal Abdul-Idris, thank you so much for the report, and we'll end it here for now. Before we go, our own division of the Forestry Commission has arrested 13 people in a crack within the Boyne Tunnel Forest Reserve. The operation was initiated following an intelligence tip on mining activities in the Forest Reserve. Task force of security personnel, including a rapid response team of the Commission, carried out the operation at Jemasem Kro in the Awo municipality of the Western North region.
In illegal mining, using local artisans like chamfer and then pumping machine, and then dig and wash, using basically tools like shovels and pickaxes. Yes. So there were 13 suspects which were arrested. The ranges start from 17 to 29. And then the area so far they have entered, it's close to about 0.4, 0.5 hectares.
Well, it's a wrap this hour. Thank you for your company. I'm Kemini Amano.